Welcome back, Tide and Tigers. It's your favorite segment, your favorite solo segment. Sorry, Chance, I know head-to-head is the best segment. 5-star. This has been a growing, most popular segment of our show. We're going to continue it this week. Two things I want to talk about this week and give, like I said, make sure on our YouTube post, our Instagrams, you're giving your opinions. I want to see if I'm wrong on these. I want to see who I'm missing out on. So make sure you comment out on the 5-star segment, but we'll start with this right here. Bruce Pearl is now a top 5 winning coach in SEC basketball history. His time at Tennessee, his time obviously at Auburn now.
War Eagle.
Chance gets a shout to War Eagle. He's a top 5 winning coach in SEC history, which makes me think, who are the 5 best coaches in SEC history? We'll start with number 5, Bruce Pearl. Bruce Pearl, been amazing at Tennessee, amazing at Auburn, taking them to their first Final Four ever. That was Chance actually pushing down an iPad into a box. Somebody did that. Anyways, Bruce Pearl, number 5. I think, to me, he's just lacking that national championship to get him up in the list. Number 4, Nolan Richardson. 40 minutes of hell. Everybody remembers that at Arkansas. What a great coach he was. Produced many guys like Mike Anderson when he was there that went on to be a great coach at UAB in Missouri and Arkansas at one point. Nolan Richardson, national championship, national runner-up. He, to me, is 4th on the list. Number 3, John Calipari. What John has done at recruiting in the NBA, finally getting a national title at Kentucky, he, to me, is so close to being one of the number 1 guys. He just hasn't won the big games when it mattered. And that was the case at UMass when early in his career. Kentucky, now he's at Arkansas. But Calipari has won the title. The year they went 38-1. Man, that was one he could have 2. Maybe bumped him up in the list, or at least put him maybe at 2. I got him at number 3. Number 2, Billy Donovan. Back-to-back national championships. Only been done by a few coaches. John Wooden, Krzyzewski, to name a few. But last coach to win back-to-back national championships. What he did at Florida, taking a program that was pretty much nowhere. They did go to the Final Four in '94, but to nowhere, to national power, which they've continued to be today as a top 5 team. Donovan is one of the greatest coaches ever in the history of basketball. And I'm not just saying this because I got Florida roots. That is an absolute fact. And what he did with Florida, the team aspect he shared. Remember these 06, 07 teams? The leading scorer was like 13 points a game. Like they shared the basketball. Great teams. Donovan's number 2. Number 1, got to be Adolph Rupp. What he did at Kentucky over his years, all the national championships, obviously leads the league by wins by a huge amount of margin. Those Kentucky teams, it's Rupp and everybody else at this point. Until somebody can win more than 2 national championships, they're not going to be in his category. So Rupp is going to be a number 1, and still his legacy still holds a great deal in the SEC. All right. I thought a lot about, I'm like, man, with the SEC being so strong this year, an SEC team has to win the national championship. We're saying it's the greatest conference ever. 9 teams currently ranked in the top 25. The SEC team's got to win a national championship. Who are the 5 biggest letdowns that didn't win a national championship in the SEC post 1990 is what I'll say. Maybe, in our generation. Not the old school teams. I didn't watch too much of those. But post 1990, who were the 5 biggest letdowns to not win a national championship? Being an Alabama guy, first one had to be last year's Alabama team. I think that team, it was the first time, so many good players that were on such a hot run. To lose to UConn, who was clearly, they did win back-to-back. First team since Billy Donovan and them to do it. I may have contradicted myself saying Billy was the last to do it. Obviously, UConn did it last year. But the hunger from Alabama never going and UConn kind of coming off another one, like that to me, it was Bama's time to do it. It just didn't work out. UConn did seem to be the better team, but what a run they had beating North Carolina and a couple of great teams in the tournament. It still was disappointment because you wanted them to win it all. So selfishly, I put that at number 5. Number 4, LSU 2005-2006. They went to the Final Four. Florida ended up winning it that year, but LSU was loaded. Big Baby Davis, Tyrus Thomas, the Mitchell brothers, Damian Mitchell. They had so much talent on that team. And to make the Final Four, they lost to UCLA. It was the Russell Westbrook team. To me, they were better than that team. And Darren Collington, some guy, Ryan Hollis, and those players on that team. But that, to me, was so much NBA talent they should have at least played for the national championship or won the national championship. And they couldn't even get by Florida that year. Florida always beat them, and they had, I think, better talent on that team. But it was pretty even, but still, LSU, I think that was a disappointment because that was a really talented team. Number 3, 2013, 2014 Florida Gators. We talked about this on one of the other segments of the best Florida teams of all time and how this year compared to it. That year, undefeated in the SEC, and they lost in the Final Four. I believe they had a 16-4 lead in that game against UConn, but UConn didn't have any stars. I mean, they had Shabazz Napier and a couple, guards. Florida was better than them, and they should have won the national title that year, and they didn't. So that was the third most disappointing. Number 2, it's got to be the Auburn Tigers. 2018-2019 team. That team was robbed of a national championship by the referees. We all know about the double dribble. We all know about the awful three-point foul call. That team having an injury to Isaac Okoro, and having the refs, everything to me was leading for Auburn to win a national championship. And when the injury and the bad calls by the refs, it just still has a bad taste in my mouth. And I'm not even an Auburn guy, but they should have won that national championship. And to me, they went through the gauntlet. They beat North Carolina. They beat Kansas. I mean, it was an unbelievable run, and I hated to see it lose and be put in the refs' hands. That's why I got it at number 2. Number 1, by far the easiest, Kentucky again. 38-0, and they lose to Sam Decker and Frank Kaminsky of Wisconsin in the Final Four. John Calipari's biggest letdown in the history of what I think is college basketball. That team was so good, didn't lose a game all year, and then to lose to Wisconsin in the Final Four, just very disappointing, especially after Anthony Davis and those guys just got done. But you had Karl Anthony Towns, so much talent on that team. To lose after how good that team was just, it is the most disappointing loss in SEC history and probably in Calipari's career. So there's my top 5, 2 top 5s this week. Comment on it. Let us know how we did.